Give me your name and tell me when you were a patient of Dr. Perwaiz.
My name is Shannon Cohen.
Tabitha Johnson.
Robin Serta.
Susan Anderson.
Trisha Smith.
Ayanna Patillo.
Michaela Rudolph.
Linda Jackson.
Christina Holloway.
Dana Chisholm.
Crystal Sharp.
Aja Wiggins.
Anna Marie Mullen.
Amber.
My name is Terry.
I have been a patient of Dr. Perwaiz.
Dr. Perwaiz.
Dr. Perwaiz.
We began working on this project 16 months ago.
And new tonight, federal authorities arrested a Chesapeake doctor they say performed unnecessary surgeries on unsuspecting patients.
Dr. Perwaiz.
Dr. Perwaiz. Dr. Perwaiz.
Dr. Perwaiz caused a lot of pain.
For over 20 years.
7 years.
From 1990 to 1994.
Since 1981.
2019 for my pregnancy.
I would say all of the 80s and partial 90s.
And the one constant through all of this has been the Perwaiz patients.
The last time I saw him was 2012.
Since 2006.
2003 to 2007.
2013 until 2019.
Our goal was to give them a voice.
My name is Shannon Cohen, and this is my victim impact statement. Mr. Perwaiz, I say Mr. because to call you doctor, as I have for over 20 years, would be to acknowledge your moral code, your dedication and ethically directed compass that would justify your role as a physician.
I've been at Wavy now nearly 16 years, and I don't ever remember a case where federal prosecutors reached out to victims who were not involved in the trial and asked them to write statements about how they were impacted. Well, Perwaiz patients were asked to do just that.
In October of 2019, I saw you for the last time. You were wearing electric blue Nike fresh off the Fashion Week runway, looking like $1 million per the usual, without a hint of distress. I remember our last conversation. Dr. Perwaiz, you're not planning on retiring anytime soon, are you? Your response, so cool, so easily rolled off your tongue. No, Shannon, I love my job far too much to ever retire.
The most important thing we've learned over the last 16 months is that Dr. Perwaiz caused a lot of pain, a lot of heartbreak, and many of his patients are still dealing with that today.
It opened up a whole different level of floodgates, because in the beginning, I didn't want to go to another doctor. I still haven't been to another doctor, but the more and more I thought about it and the more I started putting pieces together of my life and all of the trauma that I went through the birth of my children, I started thinking back to my 20s. The thought of having children was, not even in my realm of thinking. But now as a mother and experiencing what I did with my 2 boys, to think that he might have played some part somewhere along the lines in my past to have caused so much pain. I'm numb. I'm numb to his conviction. I'm numb to his sentencing. I'm numb at this person that has created all of this.
Everything was all about money, the fancy lifestyle. That's all it was about. He didn't care how he hurt people. None of that mattered.
Dr. Perwaiz, you took advantage of the faith and trust I had in you. You made me believe that you were not only my doctor, but also a friend. But a friend would never have done to me what you did. It amazes me now to believe that I could have been so stupid to allowed you to have operated on me as many times as you did. You lied. I will regret forever allowing you to do that to me. You are a butcher. Whenever I hear of someone going to you, I tell them what you did to me and try to talk them out of going to you. Almost every woman I have talked to who has been to you has had laser surgery. Imagine that.
From the day that I found out through the FBI that all the reports came back that I never had cancer, I was devastated. I screamed, I cried, I've been depressed. My family is very sad. You did an operation on me that was very unnecessary for the sake of money. Do you know what it feels like every day to walk around and be depressed because a doctor that you trusted took body parts from you that was not necessary? Shame on you.
It brings back a lot of emotions, a lot of anger, and of course the feeling of how could I have been so stupid to have believed in him like I did, like a lot of women did.
Many former Perwaiz patients are still dealing with massive trauma, and the FBI realized that, but didn't have the resources to handle it. So they reached out to local therapists who created the Women's Resource Collaborative to help these women heal.
Hi, I'm Dr. Susan Thompson. I'm a licensed professional counselor here in Virginia.
What's the goal of the collaboration?
To provide individual and also potentially group resources, assistance directly to or to help plug women into other resources as well. Back in November, I got a call from Carol Wilson, who's with the FBI. She was looking around to see what resources that she could find for the women who've been impacted by this whole horrific set of events. One of the things that I suggested was just putting word out to friends and colleagues to see what we might be able to come up with and to see if there's somebody else who might be willing to lead a collaboration of different professionals to help these women.
I'm Danielle McDowell and I'm a resident in counseling. I was alarmed to hear how many people were affected by what he did to those ladies. Our long goal is to not only just provide individual therapy to those impacted, but to offer group therapy.
The collaborative even created its own website strictly to deal with Perwaiz patients. Several of them have already started to meet with therapists.
The trauma that they have experienced shows up all over their lives. It shows up in their ability to build relationships, maintain relationships. It shows up in their ability to plan their future and their intimate relationships, and there are layers to this crime. A lot of time individuals who are sexually assaulted, they're assaulted by individuals they know. They've been able to build relationship with that individual, and that individual uses things like kindness, works really hard to build trust so that you feel like it's safe to trust that individual. And he exhibited, it seems like, those same behaviors where he was very kind and warm and knowledgeable and gave space to build that trust so that he could take advantage.
Therapists have no idea how many patients could be out there, but they say that trauma could show up years later. The question is, does Perwaiz even realize what he left behind?
I want to answer that in two ways. From the therapeutic standpoint that says we don't really know what goes on in anybody else's head. And from the human standpoint, how could he not know? How could he not know? Just knowing how many people this one man impacted, hurt.
And he's got to be punished. One way or another, he has to be punished.
We featured Anita Fuller in Chapter 8. She was a victim who had a hysterectomy done because Dr. Perwaiz told her that she had cancer. She found out months later from the FBI that she didn't need the hysterectomy and that she never had cancer. She's like one of several patients who are now filing lawsuits against Dr. Perwaiz. Easier said than done, though.
Would you say malpractice is one of the hardest things to prove legally? Oh, I think it's extremely difficult, because in any case you have to prove that there was fault. My name is Michael Goodove, and I'm a medical malpractice attorney.
When you first saw the stuff come out about the doctor, when you saw it on the news, your first thought was what?
Well, I mean, my heart goes out to the victims, obviously, but the difficulty on the victims with if they were going to pursue a medical malpractice claim, how difficult it would be with a lack of records as well as the time passing.
So what makes medical malpractice so difficult? For starters, there's a 2-year statute of limitations from the time when the treatment ended, except in cases of fraud, like you have here. You have to have a medical expert testify in malpractice. You need medical records, and ultimately it's always the patient versus the doctor.
I mean, I've never in my 28 years of practice picked up a record from a doctor where a doctor acknowledges making a mistake in a surgical procedure. And so many times the medical records, the actual subjective information that's put in there by the physician, don't help the patient when it comes to a medical malpractice case.
Virginia is one of many states in the country that has a cap on how much money a patient can win in court. The cap is $2.45 million, but adding insult to injury here, the further back the procedure or surgery goes, the less money can be awarded.
Does the cap help you guys, or would you rather?
Heck no. No, the cap's terrible, because what a cap does on very severely injured people, it limits their right of recovery. So let's say you've been injured gravely by a doctor and you need money to pay for your care in the future. Well, the doctor has a cap in that case, and then that person's going to be shifted to their own resources or the public resources. Caps are absolutely terrible, and they discourage settlement and resolution of cases in many times.
Right now, there are nearly 13 active civil suits against Perwaiz, mostly in Chesapeake. I'm told more are coming. Fuller's lawsuit should be filed any time.
I will never accept an apology from Dr. Perwaiz. Never. Why? His apology is nothing but lies, just like everything else was lies. If he wanted to apologize to me, I do not accept his apology, not for what he has done to me and my family.
In December 2019, executive producer Adrienne Mayfield, photojournalist Kevin Rahm, and myself set out on this journey. We went through a pandemic. We had several name changes for the project, and we interviewed nearly 30 people. We also asked Dr. Perwaiz several times over the last year for interviews, and every single time he's declined. Perwaiz still sits in a jail cell and is scheduled to be sentenced in May. He faces 465 years in prison. When he was found guilty in November, it meant more than you'll ever know to his patients, because in the end, it was all about the patients versus Perwaiz.
I'm only human, so my flesh obviously wants him to pay for what he did, but because of my faith in God, I know that that's between him and God. And he's the one he's going to have to answer to, not me, no one. He has to answer to God. But still, that little bit of me is glad he is paying.
I don't know that there is a sentence to sit in prison long enough to compensate for the destruction that he has caused, to commit this kinds of horrific crimes on these women. You have no moral compass.
It's taken everything for me not to cry, because that was a very, very hard time for me, very hard time, and I went through a lot. And like I said, I still hurt from it.
Dr. Perwaiz, if you're watching this in jail, I hope you come to a God-fearing moment that you realize what you did and you really become remorseful, because you took a lot of rights of women away. So I hope you get what you deserve.
You have had a tremendous impact on every woman who trusted you. No two journeys the same, no two stories alike, no one resolving factor that could bring peace to the havoc that you have brought to each and every one of us. My only wish is that the dollar signs you saw in each of us are replaced by the faces of all of your ghosts, your patients, all of the women who trusted you, and that you are haunted by us all for the entire 465 years you deserve.
What I hope happens to you, Dr. Perwaiz, I hope to God you are punished to the fullest extent and you rot in hell for the rest of your life. And believe me, the good Lord above will see to that. You will meet your Maker.